tief nicht gut. Tief, schick. Tief, schick. שמע יבוא לי נוח, מאוד נוח.
הקהל מוזמן לשבת.
Please be seated. I'm honored to welcome all the guests present here at the forest and all those who are watching the live stream of this special ceremony, one of its kind in the world, which every year commemorates and cherishes the acts of men and women who saved the lives of Jews during the Holocaust. For 23 years now, the commemoration ceremony, held jointly by KKL-JNF and the Bnei B'rith World Center in Jerusalem, is held here near the Scroll of Fire Plaza at the Forest of the Martyrs, it is the largest joint KKL-JNF and Bnei B'rith project memorializing the victims of the Holocaust with 6 million trees commemorating Holocaust victims for over 70 years. We are honored here today by the presence of Rabbi Amichai Eliyahu, the Minister of Heritage, Dr. Chaim Katz, Chairman Bnei B'rith World Center Jerusalem and member of the KKL-JNF Board of Directors, Mr. Daniel Mariashin, CEO of Bnei B'rith International, Mr. Sar Shalom Jerby, Director of KKL-JNF's Education and Community Division, Attorney Alan Schneider, Director of Bnei B'rith World Center and Secretary of the Jewish Rescuers Citation Subcommittee, Her Excellency Ambassador of Slovenia Andrea Pokart Martinez, Ambassador of Ireland to Israel, His Excellency Kyle O'Sullivan, Ambassador of Slovakia, His Excellency Igor Makush, Ambassador of Guatemala, Her Excellency Eva Atzom Arbelo de Moscoso, Ambassador of Uruguay, His Excellency Manuel Echeverron, the Ambassador of Sri Lanka to Israel, His Excellency Namal Badra, the Ambassador of Georgia to Israel, His Excellency Lasha Zmania, Ms. Margot Bergeron d'Ars, Consul in the French Embassy, Ms. Inez Damiri, Charge d'Affaires in the Embassy of Kosovo in Israel, Ms. Gabriela Hilfiger, Deputy Ambassador of Austria, Brigadier General Meir Eliyahu, Commander of the Beit Horon Border Police Instructional Base, and also Nissim Sar from this same school, and also General Avi Cohen, Chief Instructor, and Eli Abutbul, the Commander of the Training Division. We also have with us today Professor Judy Tidor Baumel-Schwartz, Director of the Finkler Institute of Holocaust Research at Bar Ilan University, and the daughter of rescuer Yecheskel Tidor. Representatives of Bnei B'rith International, the member Charles Kaufman and his wife Veni, and Chairman of the UN Division, Ms. Geri Magid, and her husband Larry, as well as representatives of Bnei B'rith to the Special Zionist Congress, which is being held in Jerusalem, which will begin tomorrow. The representatives of Bnei B'rith Israel, Daniel Gretz, the Chairman of the Committee for International Relations, History and Heritage, Ilan Shchori, Dr. Hadass Malka Cohen, consultant and representative of President of Bnei B'rith Israel for International Events and Relations with the Diaspora, and Deputy Mayor of Rishon LeZion. I would also like to note Mr. Chaim Roth, founding chairman of the Committee to Recognize the Heroism of Jewish Rescuers During the Holocaust, and Attorney Aryeh Barnea, chairman of the Committee to Recognize the Heroism of Jewish Rescuers During the Holocaust, for their contribution to the commemorative enterprise of Jewish rescuers. We would like to thank from this stage all those who have told and will tell the stories of the rescuers at the testimonial corners. And now I am honored to invite Rabbi Amichai Eliyahu, the Minister of Heritage, to say a few words. Rabbi Eliyahu, please. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished audience, members of the heroes' families, members of the security establishment, people from KKL-JNF, representatives of Bnei B'rith, and not far from here in the city of Lod, the story of two brothers took place. Their names were Paphos and Lulianus. The story of their heroism is etched in the pages of the Talmud and the heritage of the Jewish people forever. The Jewish people have always faced and still face enemies who seek to destroy and eradicate it from the face of the earth, including, unfortunately, today, as we face Iran, which strives to destroy us. And in times of great darkness, shining lights are revealed in the form of those who do not surrender and do not allow or let human beasts degrade their spirit and their bravery. Our spirit, our bravery, they are the ones whose memory remains thousands of years after they're gone. They are the pillars of Jewish identity. Paphos and Lulianus lived during the Roman Empire about 900 years ago. There's a story about the daughter of King Trajan who was found dead, and the Jews were suspected of killing her. So they were all sentenced to death. But these holy brothers raised themselves to the highest level of human existence, and without paying attention to their own fate, stepped forward and accepted the blame. They were executed, and by doing so, they saved their Jewish brethren. Our sages say about their act of heroism, martyrs of the kingdom, or martyrs of Lod. No creature can even come close to them. The Holocaust is a multifaceted event. We have not yet even started to understand all the multiple angles that this terrible event has etched in our souls, and it will take generations to open all the wounds and then dress them. One of the faces in this side of our people that is revealed in those noble heroes who did not let the Nazi murderers humiliate their spirit. Those who shared their meager food with their brothers. Those who gave their lives to fulfill the commandments of their God, and those special individuals whose heroism we commemorate today. Jewish brothers and sisters who stepped forward and risked their lives in such a crazy situation in order to save their brothers and sisters. Today we show our respect for those heroes through their families. And I wish to share with you the great feeling of pride and the power I get from the acts of your fathers and mothers left in us. If anyone in the world has any doubt about Jewish brotherhood, if anyone thinks he can destroy us from the inside, then that person should know your parents. They should know Paphos and Lulianus and all those Jewish rescuers. These are the people who teach us more than anything else about the immense brotherhood that exists within us. The Jewish brotherhood that emerges in times of crisis and that is stronger than all of our difficult internal debates. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I would like to thank the Minister of Heritage for these warm words.
שמע לפני, חוצה, פני. לפי השמאל, קדימה, צעד. שמאל, ימין, שמאל. שמאל, ימין, שמאל. שמאל, ימין, שמאל, ימין, שמאל, ימין, שמאל.
אני מתכבד
I am honored to invite Mr. Sar Shalom Jerby, the Director of the Division for Education and Community in KKL-JNF. Dear audience, ladies and gentlemen, Minister of Heritage, Rabbi Amichai Eliyahu, distinguished audience, one and all. Only a week ago, we celebrated Passover, which is the holiday of redemption and liberty. In the press, the underground press in Ghetto Warsaw, you can find the following excerpt, and I quote, "The holiday of liberty we celebrate at a time in which we are subjugated, and even though liberty is constantly trampled on, and in all generations it could elude our spirit, but we believe and hope that Passover, the most beautiful of our holidays, revives the internal concept of liberty. For our tortured people, these days are a reminder of resurrection and redemption. We remember now the meaning of the words, in every generation a person must see himself as if he himself left Egypt. This is what history commands us. Each and every generation must never forget the trials and tribulations that the Jews experienced in exile. And every Jewish generation has its own Haggadah written with great subjugation and with sorrow, but also with hope and belief for a next day, which will be a better day. End of quote. Thank God, this is a generation in which our nation has switched from Holocaust to rebirth. But even in these years and throughout the generations, we must always remember the heroism of the survivors that made it possible for many families to continue to exist within the Jewish people, and the contribution of those who saved the lives of other Jews during these horrific years. These rescue stories were like a beam of light in that dark period. The righteous among the nations are non-Jews who have been recognized and received this title. And alongside these acts, there were many other acts of rescue, daily mundane acts of Jews saving Jews, that with their courage they risked their own lives, the lives of their family members. And even though they were persecuted by the Nazis, they chose to take action and to risk. These acts of rescue by Jews took place in all countries of Europe and North Africa, in the countries where the Jews left and the countries they fled to: Slovakia, Hungary, Lithuania, France, Greece, Tunisia, Libya, Algeria, and many other countries. The acts of rescue included taking out Jews from the camps, smuggling them, help forging documents, finding shelter, and more. And this citation, which is awarded to you today, symbolizes this, and it reminds all of us the heroism of the Jewish rescuers in the Holocaust, who did everything they could in order to help their Jewish brethren. And I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate Amir Shum, Chief Treasury of KKL-JNF, who will receive the citation this year in memory of his grandfather, Yosef Fisher Ariel, the Jewish rescuer. And we have students from the pre-military academies, and during their time in the academy, they carry the torch of memory, and day in, day out, they exemplify the values of Jewish brotherhood and responsibility that represents all Jews. Dear students, you are going to tour this area in the plaza and the various testimonial corners, and you will hear the stories of rescuing from the relatives of the rescuers. And you must remember that it is not the role of the survivors and their family members to tell the story of the Holocaust or the role of Holocaust Museum, but rather it is our role, of each and every individual of all age, from every ethnic group, us who, thank God, live in such a successful and strong country with a strong military that can address any security threats on the lives of the citizens of this country, should always remind this to all Jews throughout the generations. We wish everyone, both Jews and the whole world, to the days when the words of the prophet Isaiah will come true, and they shall cut their swords to shovels, and no one will carry a sword, and there will be no more war. Thank you very much, Yishar Koach Sar Shalom, and thank you very much for all your extremely important activities of passing on the tradition and the values. And now I'd like to invite Mr. Daniel Mariashin to say a few words.
Minister of Heritage, families of the rescuers, members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished guests. We come together today at this significant site where each tree planted honors one of the 6 million lives. Here, the events of 80 years ago palpably resonate, and we travel back to a visceral and immediate Shoah, perhaps It could be said that in this martyr's forest, we are oblivious to the present. The passage of time has stopped. I'm honored to be in Israel to speak to you about this special topic, the brave Jewish rescuers acknowledged through today's ceremony and through these awards. The concept was inaugurated in 2011 and was intended to counter the misconception that during the Holocaust, Jewish people remained passive or looked out for themselves alone. In fact, so many brought light to the world through their courage, resistance, and sacrifice, including, of course, the Jewish resistance in France. As we witness the passing of the generation which experienced what is unthinkable to us, it is imperative that we keep alive their stories. As a Jewish organization, B'nai B'rith shares a particular solidarity with the concept of Jews rescuing Jews. Our organization, founded in 1843, tries to make a difference, even in small ways, to both Jewish and non-Jewish people every day. From 1933, the year that Hitler came to power, the acts of the Nazis directly impacted our B'nai B'rith lodges in Germany. The German newspapers reported that the government placed B'nai B'rith under special political observation because of our effort, quote, to spread pacifism among the German people with their brotherhood of man ideas, closed quote. Throughout the decade, B'nai B'rith members across Europe were singled out, as were all Jews, for particularly violent and demeaning persecution. We worked vigorously to try to get Jews out of Germany. Many would find shelter in England. Information that reached us from our European members was brought to the attention of the United States State Department, the White House, and to the American public at large. Yet we could not extract any commitment to stop what was happening and what was gaining momentum. It was impossible for most to realize how the persecution, as horrible as it was, and gaining in intensity, would culminate. B'nai B'rith Germany had been ordered closed in 1937, and lodges in Eastern Europe shared the same fate during the next 2 years. In the time since, we established the award and organized this ceremony held annually on Holocaust Heroes and Martyrs Day, even during the pandemic. I'm proud to state that our organization has made further inroads in illuminating the chronicles of Jewish rescuers for both academics and for a wider audience. A book of essays, All Our Brothers and Sisters, Jews Saving Jews During the Holocaust, was edited by two of today's speakers, B'nai B'rith World Center Jerusalem Director Alan Schneider and scholar Judith Baumel-Schwartz, who heads the Arnold and Leona Finkler Institute of Holocaust Research at Bar-Ilan University. The concept for the volume grew out of online discussions among historians which were conducted under Bar-Ilan auspices. Since its 2021 publication, the book has been celebrated as a repository of miraculous and courageous deeds. Its contents, some of which we hoped were inspired by this award, reveal that ever-expanding numbers of people are determined to uncover narratives of rescue recorded in oral histories, written testimonies, and archival documents. Often, their deeds were remembered only by those whom they did save. But we know in our hearts that the knowledge we have so far accumulated is just the tip of the iceberg. Hundreds of courageous acts took place, and they must be discovered, uncovered, and preserved for future generations. Surveying the profiles of today's awardees, we do not ask, what did they do to save Jewish lives? Rather, we exclaim, what didn't they do? The answer is, they did everything imaginable and unimaginable as well. Those of you today who are representing families of those we honor possess a heroic pedigree in which we can all take pride. This tribute that we pay to your family members should serve to remind us all today and every day that the need for us to rededicate ourselves to keeping alive all aspects of the story of the Holocaust is ever more urgent, especially as time passes and as the number of survivors sadly diminishes each year. We must continue to remember and to teach, and we will do so by redoubling our efforts at cooperation, bringing governments, intergovernmental bodies, the education community, and civil society closer together to fully teach and inform future generations about what befell the Jewish people at the hands of the Nazis and what lessons can be learned from it. With a continual rise in anti-Semitism, it is more essential that we do this than ever. As the passage of time widens the distance between the events of the Holocaust and the present day, the study of its hitherto neglected aspects gains in importance. It is hoped that the recognition we confer today will encourage others who are involved in the investigation of the Holocaust to find pathways which will reveal and preserve the efforts of rescuers and the memory of the 6 million, and to ensure that the Shoah will never be forgotten. Thank you.
We say in Hebrew, kol mila basela. In a brief translation, Targum Katzar.
And now, a brief translation of what we heard from Mr. Marieshan. This is what he just said. The dimension of time stops in this forest. The Jewish rescuers brought light to this world with their heroism, audacity, and sacrifice. It is our duty to make sure that their stories live forever. And he detailed what the B'nai B'rith organization does in order to maintain these assets. As you know, time goes by and the last survivors are still with us, but who knows for how long. During the Holocaust years, the B'nai B'rith was under the regime, and because it was said about them that they spread pacifism, they were severely persecuted. The people of B'nai B'rith acted vigorously to rescue Jews from Europe based on information that came from the members of the organization. But even though they had informed the White House about that, the State Department and the broader population couldn't stop the atrocities. Already in 1937, all activities of B'nai B'rith in Germany was stopped because of a command of the SS, and we are proud of the activities commemorating the rescuers that represent all Jews. From the information that we have, we know that only some of the rescues have been discovered, but we must discover all of them and cherish their memory for future generations. Those who will receive the citation today did everything they could, wherever they could, in order to save their brothers and sisters, and the members of their families should be proud of their activities, and we should all preserve and commemorate the memory of the Holocaust, especially today as more and more Holocaust survivors are dying, and with the rise of expressions and manifestations of anti-Semitism. I would like to invite Brigadier General Meir Eliyahu to say a few words. Dear Holocaust survivors, Rabbi Amichai Eliyahu, Minister of Heritage, Sar Shalom Jervi, the head of the Education Division in KKL-JNF, Daniel Mariashin, CEO of B'nai B'rith International Center, represented in the family members of the rescuers that we've heard their unique stories, the commanders and soldiers of the Border Police School. Distinguished audience, one and all, today on the 27th of the month of Nisan, we bow our heads as one nation, as one people, in the memory of 6 million Jews who had perished in the most terrible disasters we'd ever known. And first, I would like to thank KKL-JNF and the organizers of this conference for allowing us to participate in such an important event and thus continue the tradition that has been going on for so many years. And I speak on behalf of all of our soldiers and commanders when I say that we are truly proud and thrilled to be part of this ceremony, to participate in this ceremony while wearing the uniform of our corps, and we are demonstrating the continuity of our people. 6 years ago, I led a team, a group from the border police in giving testimony in uniform project and walking in those terrible footsteps as we wore our uniform. I cannot explain what this feels like as we went through these places where the most atrocious things happened as powerful, proud Jews from the Israeli security establishment. And today, as I look in front of me and I understand better than ever the strength and power of the Jewish people, the tradition of thousands of years that no one managed to eradicate, the existential war of the Jewish people in their homeland continues, and even more so, threats from within and from without require that we stand vigilant and protect the state of Israel and the people of Israel from those who seek to harm us. This is the 80th anniversary of the Ghetto Warsaw Uprising, the most largest uprising during the Holocaust, which became an explicit symbol of Jewish resistance during the war. Itzhak Zuckerman, who was a survivor of the Warsaw Ghetto and participated in the uprising, said this was a war of less than 1,000 people against such a vast army. If there is a if there is a school where human spirit is learned, this should be the main profession in subject matter. The choice to get up and fight is such a courageous choice which gives us all a lesson in human spirit and heroism, just as the choice of the heroes who chose to risk their lives and save Jews during the Holocaust. That choice for me is a legacy for all the people living in this country and the security forces, and it means we must do everything we can in order to guarantee the independence and sovereignty of the state of Israel and defend not just the body of this country and its people, but also its spirit and values as a moral and ethical country which serves as a home for every Jew. A few days ago, we celebrated Pesach, and as part of the holiday, we read, as every Jew did, the Haggadah, and we realized what it said, Vehigadeta levanecha, and you shall tell your sons. And now it is the duty to tell, to talk, to remember, and not to forget the atrocities of the Holocaust on the one hand, but the power of the resurrection on the other hand. And may the memory of those who perished be blessed.
יש מקום רחוק מלא פרחי בר,
מקום קטן עלום משוגע, מקום רחוק, מקום לדאגה.
אומרים שמה שיקרה וחושבים על כל מה שקרה, אלוהים שם יושב ורואה ושומר על כל מה שברא.
אסור לקטוף את פרחי הגן, אסור לקטוף את פרחי הגן, ודואג, ודואג נורא. קצה השמיים ובסוף המדבר יש מקום רחוק מלא פרחי בר, מקום קטן עלוב ומשוגע, מקום רחוק, מקום לדאגה. שקרה, אלוהים שם יושב ורואה ושומר על כל מה שברא. אסור לקטוף את פרחי הגן, אסור לקטוף את פרחי הגן, ודואג, ודואג נורא. רואים שם מה שיקרה וחושבים על כל מה שקרה, אלוהים שם יושב ורואה ושומר על כל מה שברא. אסור לקטוף את פרחי הגן, אסור לקטוף את פרחי הגן, ודואג, ודואג נורא.
In June 1942, Marta came to visit us. Until a year ago, she was the housekeeper who lived with us. She came to tell us that her family, as a religious Protestant and very poor family, decided to oppose the Nazis and help us Jews. After many hardships, we came to Martha's parents. We hid together with my in-laws who couldn't hide anymore. My mother and I sat and slept in a small room. We were 3 adults with a young girl. We had no knowledge about or contact with the outside world. We could see the changing seasons through 20 centimeters of a glass window. We saw how spring changed to summer and autumn to winter. The only difference was the color of the leaves high up in the trees. We slept under the floor several times when there was an alarm. We lay on the bed, motionless, without clothes, just a glass of water next to us. We would listen to the click-clack of the soldiers' boots in the street. I went through these times together with wonderful people. Most of them were Jews and Gentiles who fought in the bitter struggle for life and freedom and honor so that they could stand up after the war and freely look everyone in the eye. We must help the state of Israel, and we must help young people live here. First, we must tell them that not all Jews went to their death without a fight. Second, we must fight for our values. Thirdly, the only place where we can live and fight and struggle for our existence is the place where we have the right to live, the state of Israel, adapted from the rescuer Rachel Harel's story. I'm honored to invite Ms. Margot Brejon-Das, who will speak on behalf of the French ambassador. Hello, I'm the Deputy Ambassador of France.
In this very precious memorial place to commemorate the victims and survivors of the Holocaust on behalf of my ambassador, Mr. Eric Danon. France bears its share of responsibility in the Holocaust. By collaborating with the Nazis, the Vichy regime betrayed the trust Jews had in this country. More than 76,000 men, women, and children were deported from France to concentration and extermination camps. Very few of them came back. Some of the most appalling episodes of the Holocaust, such as the separation of children of the Veldiv roundup from their parents and their solitary deportation, took place in the French transit camps of Pithiviers and Beaune-la-Rolande. These thousands of children of all ages died alone after being arrested and taken away from their parents by the French police. Today, almost all schools in Paris are adorned with black plaques recalling the atrocious fate of the Jewish pupils, reminding us from the youngest age that our memory is their unique monument. The Vichy regime not only betrayed the Jews, the many refugees who arrived in France to flee persecution and misery. He also betrayed the very spirit of the Republic. He betrayed France and its soul and identity. Proof of this is that thousands of French citizens, sometimes entire communities, dared to disobey and risk their lives to hide and protect 240,000 Jews. More than 4,000 of them have been recognized by Israel as righteous among the nation. As a grandchild of survivor, I personally owe life to one of them. At the very same period, a large amount of Jews joined the French resistance in all its tendencies: communists, socialists, sovereignists, Zionists. Far from being passive, hundreds of them participated to the liberation of the country, joining movements like the FTP-MOI. I'm honored to be able to commemorate the legacy today. The French government is strongly determined to fight anti-Semitism and negationism. School protection, consolidation of educational material, digital space regulation, legislation reinforcement. Nothing is spared to prevent intolerance and hatred from turning into anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. These efforts are bearing fruit, as the amount of anti-Semite acts have dropped dramatically in the last years in France. But there is still a long way to go. Zachor, Lotishka, remember, never forget. This oath, at the heart of Judaism, the French Republic has made it its own. Thank you.
Things that comes from your heart in a short translation of your words. Kavod hu li
It is an honor for me to stand here in front of you on behalf of Ambassador Danon in the memory of Holocaust victims and survivors. France also admits its participation in the Holocaust through the Vichy regime. Over 76,000 men, women, and children were deported from France to concentration and extermination camps. I apologize, but my family was also there. These thousands of children of all ages died alone in the gas chambers, abandoned after they were arrested and taken away from their parents by the French police. In many schools in Paris, there are memorial plaques commemorating the fate of the Jewish students who attended these schools at the time. And they remind us from a young age that our memory is a special tomb and monument commemorating them. May their memory be blessed. The Vichy regime not only betrayed the Jews, refugees who escaped persecution and suffering from France. It also betrayed the spirit of the Republic, the soul and identity of France, and that is the reason why thousands of French civilians, out of them 4,206 out of those French who had helped, were recognized as righteous among the nations in an attempt to save Jews and protect 240,000 Jews, out of them 59,000 children. And this is why the French government is determined to combat anti-Semitism and protect all schools and yeshivas, to regulate the digital zone and constitutional re-enhancement. They take all measures needed in order to prevent hatred and intolerance, which turn into anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. These efforts bear fruit, and the number of anti-Semitic incidents is diminishing. But still, we have our work cut out for us, and therefore, and she mentioned this in her words, Zachor ve'al tekachesh, remember and do not deny. This oath is at the heart of Judaism, and the French nation has also adopted it. Thank you very much. Now we will hear a verse from the Jewish resistance anthem, the resistance of the French Jews anthem.
הציפורים, בעצים היבשים
ועכשיו לרגעים של גאווה.
And now to moments of pride about Jewish heroism. The Jewish Rescuers Citation, a joint program of the Bnei B'rith World Center and the Committee to Recognize the Heroism of Jewish Rescuers During the Holocaust, was founded in 2011 to honor the work of the heroes who dared to help their brothers and rebel against the terrible fate that the Germans and their emissaries intended for every Jew. Despite the threat to their own lives, they risked their lives and showed exemplary solidarity to guarantee that Jews could continue to live in their lands or help them reach a safe shore. To date, 617 citations have been awarded to rescuers from all over Europe, North Africa, and Eretz Israel. Today, we will award citations to 18 more rescuers. And this is the wording of the certificate. This is to certify that a Jewish Rescuers Citation has been conferred in recognition of the devotion, courage, and heroism exhibited by the rescuers in rescuing fellow Jews during the Holocaust. And these rescue efforts embody the sentences, "Thou shalt not stand against the blood of thy neighbor," and "Kol Israel arevim ze lazeh." I am honored to invite Professor Judy Tidor Baumel-Schwartz, daughter of the late Yecheskel Tidor, who will receive the Jewish Rescuers Citation, to speak on behalf of the rescuers' families. Well, there are so many distinguished guests, I don't even know where to begin and whom to honor, so forgive me if I forget anyone. With the permission of the Minister and Sar Shalom Jerby and all the distinguished guests and all the distinguished members of the Honorable Diplomatic Corps, and my partner in the Forum of Jews Saving Jews in the Finkler Institute at the Bar Ilan University, Attorney Alan Snyder, and he's my connection, how I reached this topic, and my husband, Professor Yoshua Schwartz, who never got to know his father-in-law, Yecheskel Tidor, but he did encourage me to write a book about him. And first and foremost, the wonderful families that I am a part of Jewish rescuers who rescued Jews during the Holocaust, and with the permission of the souls of the Jewish rescuers. And I feel that their souls are with us here today. It is an honor for me to speak on behalf of the recipients of the Jewish Rescuer Citation who are no longer with us, just like my father, Yecheskel Tidor, that between 1939 to 1945 saved hundreds of Jews, first in Buchenwald and then in the Auschwitz Puna camp, and then once again in Buchenwald. Each of the individuals we respect today is a Jew who risked his life during World War II in order to save other Jews. What brings a person to risk his own life in order to save somebody else, whether if that person is somebody they know or don't know, somebody that is similar to them or different from them? Well, researchers have researched this from several angles, and they've reached the conclusion that we can distinguish between two situations of rescuing. There's an act of rescue that you do out of a momentary impulse, and other acts of rescuing are with more planning, when the rescuer has time to think and plan, and of course to calmly ask himself how much is he or she willing to risk their own lives for the sake of others. The reasons can be altruistic or educating to sacrifice, religious reasons, believing in a collective fate, or a profound awareness of a collective identity, and that is about rescuing in general. But what about Jews who rescued other Jews? Because it would seem that it should be quite obvious. A Jew and another Jew, somebody whose life is at risk. Which Jew won't save his brothers and sisters? I mean, all Jews are brethren, aren't they? Well, actually not. Otherwise, all the Jews in the Holocaust would have done so. But it's not what happened. Only very few people really and truly were willing to risk their own lives in order to save others. And while they were Jewish and the others were Jewish, who are the Jews who rescued Jews during the Holocaust? We don't have one specific profile. Men, women, young, old, religious, traditional, atheist, secular, believing Jews. of every kind. And what pushed them to save their fellow Jews? Everything I just mentioned, belonging to one of the groups believing in a shared faith, socialist, communist, Jews with a great affiliation to tradition, members of youth movements, etc., etc. And if I will go back to my own father for a minute, something that was very exceptional about him is the fact that he saved mainly Jews, but not exclusively Jews. And he didn't only rescue Jews from his own specific denomination of Haredi Jews or from a similar background or from the same geographic region, but rather he saved Jews from different backgrounds with life stories very different to his. Viktor Schreibnitz, the secretary of the bloc in Buna, who was actually the foreman and rescued many Jews from all places and different backgrounds. Did he think that whenever he registered a prisoner to a certain workplace to save him, that he was sentencing himself to death once he's caught? Or maybe he thought that there's nobody left in the world because he heard that his father died, his mother was murdered, his first wife was murdered, and his two children, my half-siblings, were still alive in their 90s, who were sent to Belgium in the Kindertransport. They had completely disappeared, and he didn't know where they were and if they lived. But no, it was not the reason why he rescued. He rescued Jews while he was still in Buchenwald, while he still knew where everybody exactly is and everybody was still alive. My late father once said a sentence to me that's etched in my memory, and he said, never tell someone that you're willing to die for him. It's not true. It's very easy to say that, but when the moment of truth comes, people want to live. They really want to live, and one cannot rely on such a declaration. So beware. And therefore, if I want to tell you what is the depth of my love to you, I can tell you I am willing to risk myself greatly for you. That is a true sentence. And this sentence is etched in my mind ever since. And it was said to me by a person who risked his own life to save the lives of others on a daily basis. Doesn't it sound a bit odd or ironic? But maybe that is the secret of the Jews who rescued other Jews, because they thought that they were indeed taking a huge risk, but they didn't know that they would die for certain, because if they would have thought that, perhaps it would have paralyzed them. As long as a person believes that he has an inkling of a chance to come out of it alive, that can give the person the strength to save others. And perhaps after all the studies, because I'm an academic, a scholar of the Holocaust, there are certain things that come from the inside which we still do not fully understand. That means I don't understand. So even without fully understanding the mechanism, the psychological mechanism operating for Jews who saved other Jews, we need to recognize their memory, recognize those singular individuals who can serve as role models for all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Judy, for these wise words and for this sublime wisdom that we don't know everything. And now you can receive the citation on behalf of your father. To confer the Jewish Rescuer citation, I'm honored to invite to the stage Dr. Chaim Katz and attorney Alan Schneider and Mr. Sar Shalom Jerby. A representative of the family whose name we will read is invited to take the stage and remain there until all the citations are awarded. Judy, you are invited to receive the citation for your father and remain with us on the stage until we confer all the certificates. Yosef Ariel Fischer was the chairman of KKL-JNF France during the German occupation. As part of the Jewish resistance in France, he transferred KKL-JNF funds in France to help rescue children. The citation will be awarded to his son, his grandson, who continues in his footsteps and is the treasurer of KKL-JNF. Mr. Amir Shor, please. Rachel Harel joined the Dutch underground under an assumed identity of a Christian, and her role was to maintain contact between the commander of the underground and activists who were looking for hiding places for both Jews and non-Jews. And she was arrested after a member of the underground was tortured and gave her name. In April of 1945, she escaped during the death march from Westerbroek, and her son Shmuel Harel will receive the citation. Alfred Wetzler and Rudolf Wauder, both of Slovakian origin, escaped together from Auschwitz in April 1944 in order to warn the world about the mass extermination. They came to the working group and wrote a detailed report for the first time that explained the industrial extermination carried out in Auschwitz and the gas chambers. Ernest Rosin and Jaslaw Mordovitz escaped from the camp in 1944 for the same purpose and reported on the work about the extermination of Hungarian Jews who had started arriving the camp. The two reports they authored became the Auschwitz report, which made an impact on Roosevelt and Churchill, who pressured the Hungarian regent Miklos Horthy to stop the deportations to Auschwitz, and as a result, the lives of approximately 120,000 of Budapest Jews were saved. His niece Orly Hammerschlatz will receive the citation. Eva Gorun will receive, and Rudolf Wauder's citation will be accepted by Professor Rutlin, his friend, on behalf of his widow, Robin Verba. Edward Laufer, after killing a fascist soldier who shot his wife, Laufer fled the city of Nitra and joined the fascist militia in Slovakia and opened a small business that helped him save Jews and partisans. And he was incarcerated and tortured, but managed to escape and continue with his rescue activities. His granddaughter and Simcha, one of the people he rescued, will receive the citation. Alexander Moch, and he was deported from Germany, and because he ran a Hachshara, a training center, and he managed to receive 150 immigration permits, and that helped take out all the trainees from the farm from concentration camps. Alex Turner, his grandson, will receive the citation. Dr. Alexander Natan, a member of the General Zionists, who was one of the commanders of the glass house in Budapest, where many were saved, and after he made Aliyah to Israel and served in senior positions in the Jewish Agency. Shmuel Skornitsky, he established in the Spanish consulate in Toulouse a laboratory for forging documents, hid weapons, and gave shelter to Jews and French resistance members. His daughter Arlette Foldes Zisols is here with us to receive the citation. Jenya Cherniak, a pharmacist and member of the Nazi underground. She stole medicine from the pharmacy where she worked in the Antofol ghetto and helped her husband, Dr. Pinchas Cherniak, treat and save Jews. Dr. Cherniak worked in a clinic outside the ghetto distributing food and medicine. In April 1943, they fled to the forest and joined the Kirov partisan regiment, and in its ranks treated the sick and wounded. Their daughter, Irit Weiss, was here with us today to receive the citation. Adolfo Kaminsky was a member of the Jewish resistance in France, and he established an underground laboratory and forged thousands of documents that saved an estimated 14,000 Jews. After the war, he helped the survivors to continue and escape. His sister, Michal Gerlich, is here today to receive the citation. Rabbi Shmuel René Keppel was the military rabbi of the French military's Fifth Army and a member of the Jewish Army Resistance. He brought aid to 7,500 Jews arrested in Saint-Séphrin under the Vichy regime, and he convinced the authorities to release 200 Jews from the Grèce camp and smuggled an additional 1,000 individuals. He managed to help Jewish children escape from several camps and save their lives until he was caught and he was tortured, sent to Drancy camp, and from there to Auschwitz. On the last train, he managed to jump off the train and return to Paris, where he continued to work for a community helping prepare Jews for Aliyah. His daughter, Judith Blum, is here to receive the citation. Mordechai Russell was a member of the institutions of the Zionist movement and a member of the rescue committee on behalf of Bnei Akiva in Romania. He transported Jews from Hungary to Transylvania as part of the Tiyul and provided them with a hiding place, food, and fake IDs. His son, Nehemiah Russell, is here to receive the citation. Moshe Zoltan Stroli was assigned to do office work in a labor camp of the Hungarian army in Stanislav. He smuggled 9 young men into the camp without papers nor permits. He delayed train cars that were commissioned to transport the camp residents to the Russian-German front. He obtained Swedish government sponsorship certificates for all 220 Jews who were in the camp, including the 9 he smuggled in, and prevented their deportation to Auschwitz. His daughter, Lily Colette is here to receive the citation. Baruch Shivi, one of the leaders of the Zionist movement in Greece and a platoon commander in the National Liberation Front, EAM, participated in warning the Jews of Athens and smuggling them to hiding places in the mountains with the help of the underground members and priests. His son, Jacob Shivi, is here today to receive the citation.
וכעת נצלם תמונה משותפת.
Now we would like to take a group photo of all the recipients of the citations.
משפחות יקרות של מקבלי התעודות.
Dear families of the citation recipients, please be seated. We will have time to do that later after the ceremony. Please be seated.
כי ראיתי את דרכי נעלמת בעצבו מקירות חורשים
ובתוך האדמה המדממת רגליי ננעצו, היכו שורשים ולרגע יכולתי לשמוע עלים מלמדים שירתם ורציתי לעלות גבוה לפרוח איתם.
הכרתי טיפותיו של הגשם נקבות בתוכי יורדות מתחתיי והרוח קרה ונואשת הקפיאה אומרים השמיים כחולים מעלינו, מלאים מאורות. אולי יום אחד אוכל גם אני לראות. ונפלתי לארץ בשקט, עצמתי עיניי, אטמתי ליבי והרגשתי איך אני מתפרקת מכל כאביי, מכל בדידותי. ולרגע יכולתי לברוח, כנוצה כנפה של ציפור, והצלחתי לעלות גבוה, לראות את האור, לראות את האור. ולרגע יכולתי לברוח, כנוצה כנפה של ציפור, והצלחתי לעלות גבוה, לראות את האור, לראות את האור, לראות את האור, לראות את האור.
And that's exactly what I wanted to prevent. The militiaman pointed to the attaché bag I was holding. My hand gripped the handle nervously. For a brief moment, I felt that the ground is collapsing under my feet. I would like to take off and flee, but any attempt to escape would be futile. A wave of panic causes my blood to freeze. I have to improvise and do it fast. Are you deaf? What do you have there? The militiaman asked loudly. My sandwiches. Would you like to see them? And as I said that, I started opening the case. No problem. There really are some sandwiches inside. They just have to hide the things I have to hide at all costs. After a moment of hesitation, the militiaman gives me a penetrating look, scans my face, looking for a sign of weakness. So I put on a stupid smile. Something I could always do when needed, to look stupid. The next few moments seemed like hours. We arrived at the train station, and the train blew its whistle to signal the closing of the doors. Okay, you can go. I remember well the shrill whistling of the wind over the graves in the cemetery. My teeth chattered and my body trembled. I just had to wait patiently for my pulse to return to a normal rhythm, for my hands to calm down and unclench. How long did it take? I don't know. Maybe 5 or 10 minutes, enough time for me to feel cold and collect my thoughts, enough time for me to remember why and for whom I take risks, and to remind myself how urgent the deliveries I make were. There is no time to feel despair or self-pity, fear or giving up. From the book A Forger's Life, about the rescuer Adolfo Kaminsky. In his last letter, Mordechai Anilevich wrote from the bunker, "We've managed to stop their entrance twice already. I don't know how long it will take, but I have no doubt that great things are happening that will stay with the Jewish people for decades to come. And we are commemorating today the uprising, the beginning of the uprising of the Warsaw Ghetto in April 19th, 1943. For 4 weeks, the flags of the uprising were raised above the bunkers, and they signaled and they embody forever and ever the heroism of the Jews during World War II. And to a great extent, that was the beginning of the legacy that we grew up on and upon which we raise our children. And now for the honor guard, please rise.
שמר העמוד, שמר יפנה עם הפנה, שמר יציג את נשקו, זה שק, שמר יעבור לנוח, עוד נוח.
Yizkor by Rav Gidon Shluk, head of the Heritage Department in the Division for Education and Community of KKL-JNF.
יזכור אלוהים את כל הנשמות של כל קהילות בישראל בגולת אירופה, שהועלו על מוקד בשנות השואה תש"ן עד תש"ה. 6 מיליונים אנשים ונשים, ילדים וילדות, בחורים ובתולות, זקן וטף, שנהרגו ושנטבחו באכזריות איומה, ונרצחו ברצח במקומות מגוריהם, בערים, בעיירות ובכפרים, ויתרם הובלו למחנות הריכוז ונספו במיתות משונות ונוראות, ונשרפו לעפר בכבשני האש של מחנות ההשמדה האיומים בגרמניה ובפולין ובשאר הארצות, בידי עם המרצחים הגרמני יחד עם עוזריו הרוצחים משאר העמים, שהיו בעצה אחת להשמיד ולהרוג ולאבד את העם היהודי, ולמחות את זכר היהדות ולכלות כל אשר בשם ישראל יקרא. אל נקמות שופט הארץ, זכור נא את נחלי הדם שנשפך כמים, דמי אבות ובנים, אמהות ועולליהם, רבנן ותלמידיהם, והשב גמול שבעתיים לצוררי עמך. שוועת שמע ישראל שזעקו הלקוחים למוות אל תדום, והנקת המעונים תעלה לפני כיסא כבודך, לנקום במהרה בימינו לעינינו את נקמת דם בניך ובנותיך הקדושים והטהורים, שלא זכו לקבר ישראל, ככתוב, כי דם עבדיו יקום, ונקם ישיב לצריו, וכיפר אדמתו עמו.
שמר יציג את נשקו, זה שק, נוח, עוד נוח.
The El Maleh Rachamim prayer recited by Rav Eliav Ben David from the Border Police.
שמר דום, שמר יחטיף את נשקו, זה שק.
אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר רק המזהירים, את נשמות 6 מיליוני היהודים, חללי השואה שנהרגו, שנשחטו, שנשרפו, ושנספו על קידוש השם, מידי המרצחים הגרמנים בעוזריהם יימח שמם. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסדר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, בגן עדן תהיה מנוחתם, ויעמדו לגורלם לקץ הימין, ונאמר אמן.
שמר יציג את נשקו.
Kaddish recited by Andy Kidal.
נשקו, זה שק.
קדיש. יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה. ועלמא דברה בקרותי והמליך מלכותי ויצמח פורקני ויקרב משיחי בחיי חון ובאחון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. העלה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעולמה ואימו אמן. יש למה רבה משמיה וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימו אמן.
שמר יציג תשקו, ציק שק, שמר יבוא לנוח, מוד נוח.
אנא יישארו עומדים.
Please remain standing, and we will now sing the national anthem Hatikva.
שמר ידגלת נשקו, גייל שק. שמר יכתיב
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing until the honor guard leaves the stage.
שמר יפנה, חוצה, פנה. לפי השמאל, קדימה, צעה. שמאל, ימין, שמאל. שמאל, ימין, שמאל. שמאל, ימין, שמאל, ימין, שמאל, ימין, שמאל. שמאל, ימין, שמאל. שמאל, ימין, שמאל. שמאל, ימין.
תם טקס
The 2023 Holocaust Remembrance Day ceremony has now come to a close. I would like to thank Mr. Alan Snyder and Ms. Mayan Dan for working hard on preparing this ceremony. I would like to thank all the people who participated in the ceremony, the commanders and soldiers from the border police, commanded by Bader Haitam. And I would also like to thank the deputy commander of the training division. I'd also like to thank the volume singing troupe conducted by Uriah Lifshitz from Gush Etzion. And I'd like to thank all the participants, the soldiers and commanders of the Border Police School. Thank you to each and every one of you. I would like to remind you that in a few moments the testimonial corners will open up again, and you are all invited to visit these corners and hear the stories of the rescuers. KKL-JNF guides are going to take you on tours in the region and around the Memorial Monuments Plaza. And now I would like to invite the recipients of the Jewish Rescuer Citation, the rescuers, and distinguished guests are invited to the stage for a group photo, please.
חברים, אתם מוזמנים כמובן עם המשפחות.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're invited with your families.
תשלחו לנו את זה.
תיכנסו טיפה יותר. אז יאללה. אליי, לפה. רגע, יזהם עם העיניים. יש? תעצמי אותם, שנייה לך יותר קל. תודה רבה. אני אשלח לך. או שאני צריך את ההדשה. קרן, מפה למטה מג"ב. כן. יאללה, כמה זמן יש?
כן, היום יושבים על